as members of the D.C. Council fanned out across the halls of Congress on Monday, lobbying GOP lawmakers against a federal funding bill that threatened to strip more than $1 billion from the city's budget. The streets of Washington, D.C. were simultaneously bustling with activity. City crews, working diligently just 2 miles from Capitol Hill, were dismantling a section of the city that had become iconic, Black Lives Matter Plaza. This act, steeped in political symbolism, was a direct response to increasing pressure from President Donald Trump and his Republican allies on Capitol Hill. The move was made amid growing threats to the capital city's financial stability and its long-standing autonomy. The decision to begin dismantling Black Lives Matter Plaza came in the midst of a tense battle over the federal budget, with Republicans threatening to withhold funding for Washington, D.C. if the mural, painted in bright yellow letters on the street just up the road from the White House, was not removed. The mural, which symbolized both the city's support for racial justice and its resistance to the administration's policies, had been painted in the summer of 2020. After widespread protests following the death of George Floyd, the removal of the plaza represents not only a physical shift, but also a political pivot for D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who led the effort to create the plaza as a symbol of resistance and solidarity in the wake of the racial justice protests that rocked the nation in the summer of 2020. Mayor Bowser, a third-term Democrat, has been a prominent figure in opposing President Trump during his first term. However, with Trump now in his second term and Republicans wielding greater power in Congress, Bowser finds herself in a much more precarious position. The financial strain on D.C. is considerable. A proposed funding bill, authored by Republicans, would slash over $1 billion from the district's budget, jeopardizing critical services like education, public safety, and homelessness programs. The bill is just one of many efforts by Trump and his Republican allies to exert greater control over Washington, D.C., a city that has long enjoyed a degree of autonomy under the principle of home rule, which allows local governance in areas like policing, education, and public services. Now, however, that autonomy is increasingly under threat. The removal of Black Lives Matter Plaza serves as a symbolic gesture meant to appease Republican lawmakers who have targeted the mural as an expression of left-wing politics and an affront to law and order principles. Republicans argue that the mural is a political statement that should not occupy public space in the nation's capital, while Democrats, including Bowser, have defended the plaza as a legitimate form of public art and free expression. The fact that Bowser, once an ardent defender of the mural, would capitulate so quickly to Republican demands signals the high stakes involved and the pressure she faces from both sides of the political spectrum. A political dance of fear and strategy. The timing of this decision is significant. As Trump begins his second term, he has wasted no time in asserting his influence over D.C. affairs. Among his early actions, he appointed a conservative ally to be the city's U.S. attorney, a move that has been widely criticized by local leaders as an attempt to impose federal control over the district. The threat to the city's budget has been compounded by other measures, including the removal of homeless encampments and a broader push to rein in the city's autonomy, particularly in matters related to law enforcement and public safety. Their political environment has shifted significantly since Bowser's first term, when she was known for her bold resistance to Trump's policies. Bowser, a leading figure in the Democratic resistance, has now adopted a more cautious approach, navigating the treacherous waters of a polarized political climate. Bowser's pivot, however, comes with significant risks. Although she enjoys a strong base of support among the city's residents, many of whom are fiercely opposed to Trump. Her decision to dismantle Black Lives Matter Plaza has sparked a wave of criticism from local leaders, activists, and residents who see this as a capitulation to political pressure from a president they consider hostile to their interests. In her defense, Bowser has argued that removing the plaza is a necessary step to ensure that the district can weather the financial storm looming on the horizon. The $1.1 billion in proposed cuts to the district's budget would have a profound impact on public services, and Bowser has expressed concerns that the city could lose vital resources needed to address crime, homelessness, and other pressing issues. In an effort to mitigate the financial blow, Bowser has signaled that she will be seeking federal assistance from the White House to help cushion the economic impact of fish to fry, Bowser said during a recent interview with CNN, referencing the looming financial crisis that the city faces as a result of Trump's proposed budget cuts. For Bowser, the priority is clear: ensure that the city's financial stability is preserved, even if it means compromising on some of the city's more politically charged initiatives, like the Black Lives Matter Plaza. However, this decision is unlikely to sit well with many of her constituents, who view the mural as an important symbol of the city's commitment to racial justice and equality. The broader political landscape, Trump's influence on D.C. politics, the federal government's increasing influence over Washington, D.C., has been a source of contention for decades. Since the city does not have voting representation in Congress, residents of the nation's capital have long struggled with the lack of political autonomy. The Home Rule Act of 1973 allowed the district to establish its own local government, but Congress retains the power to override local laws and control the budget. Over the years, this has led to a constant tug-of-war between local leaders and federal lawmakers over issues like gun control, marijuana legalization, and public education policies. Trump's second term has escalated tensions between Washington, D.C. and the federal government. With Republicans in control of both chambers of Congress, local officials are finding it increasingly difficult to push back against federal encroachment. The funding bill that threatens to strip $1.1 billion from the city's budget is just one example of how Republicans are using their leverage to impose their will on D.C. lawmakers' decisions. For many residents of the district, these developments signal a broader push by the GOP to diminish the city's political power and force it to comply with federal dictates. Trump's threats to take over the city and strip it of its autonomy have been particularly alarming for local leaders. While Trump has repeatedly stated that he has a good relationship with Bowser, his actions speak louder than his words. By pressuring the mayor to make concessions on issues like public art, law enforcement, and the city's budget, Trump is testing the limits of DC's autonomy and demonstrating how vulnerable the city is to the whims of a president who is not beholden to local political dynamics. Bowser's responses to Trump's actions have been carefully measured. While she has publicly criticized his policies, she has also worked to find common ground with the president on certain issues. In a meeting with Trump at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida before he took office, Bowser and Trump reportedly discussed areas of mutual interest, including public safety and economic development in the district. However, despite these discussions, the political climate in Washington, D.C. has become increasingly polarized, and Bowser finds herself in a difficult position as she attempts to balance the competing interests of her constituents, the Trump administration, and her own political future. Local leaders weigh in, frustrations with Bowser's approach. While some local leaders have praised Bowser for navigating the complex political landscape with a degree of diplomacy. Others have been more critical of her approach. D.C. Council member Brianne Nadeau, for example, has publicly expressed her frustration with the mayor's decision to dismantle Black Lives Matter Plaza, calling it a capitulation to political pressure from Trump and his allies. History has shown that giving in to bullies emboldens them for bigger attacks, Nadeau wrote on social media. Congress has been threatening to take away our funding since the start of Home Rule 50 years ago. We have always fought back. Let's not give up the fight before it's even started. Nadeau's comments reflect the deep sense of frustration that many in the city feel as they watch Bowser seemingly cede ground to Trump's demands. For many, the removal of Black Lives Matter Plaza is a symbolic victory for those who seek to undermine the city's progressive values and make Washington, D.C. more compliant with the wishes of a conservative town hall meeting. Bowser addressed concerns from her constituents about the removal of the mural. While I recognize that there is frustration and people want someone to blame or they want somebody to be mad at, I don't think that's where we are in D.C., Bowser said. I think we're in the place where we're locking arms. They want us to be smart and strategic and get to the other side. And that's my job. I'm going to navigate us to the other side. Despite these reassurances, the challenges facing the mayor and the district are immense. The proposed funding bill, which is expected to be voted on in the House of Representatives in the coming days, would significantly reduce the district's budget for the next fiscal year. If the bill passes, it could mean cuts to vital social programs, education, and public safety services, all of which are already under strain due to rising inflation and the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. The future of Washington, D.C. Under Trump's leadership, the future of Washington, D.C. under Trump's leadership remains uncertain. While the president has indicated that he and Bowser share common goals, particularly in the areas of public safety and economic development, the ongoing financial crisis and the threats to the city's autonomy suggest that the relationship between the federal government and the district will continue to be fraught with tension. The decision to dismantle Black Lives Matter Plaza is just the latest chapter in a long-running struggle for power and influence between local leaders and the federal government as Trump moves forward with his agenda. In his second term, Bowser and other local leaders will have to balance the competing pressures of defending the city's autonomy while also ensuring that it remains financially solvent. The political and economic landscape in Washington, D.C. is changing rapidly, and it remains to be seen how Bowser and her administration will navigate the stormy waters ahead.